My name is Yun Seung-ah, and if there is one thing life has taught me, it's that small lies sometimes become the only shield you have. I never meant to lie to my son. I never meant to create a world inside his tiny head that didn't match reality. But when you raise a child alone, when every question he asks slices you open in places you thought had healed, you say whatever keeps his heart from breaking. That's why, when he used to look up at me with those round, innocent eyes and ask, "Yama, where's my Appa?" I couldn't tell him the truth. I couldn't say, "Your father left before you were born. He didn't want us." I couldn't bury that kind of hurt inside a child who still sleeps clutching my shirt when he has nightmares. So I told him something softer, that his Appa was someone important. Someone who looked like the men in shiny suits. Someone who worked far away. Someone who loved him quietly. I never gave him a name, never gave a face, just an outline. And Baek-ha, with his wild imagination and soft heart, filled in the rest himself. In his mind, Appa became a tall, serious man who wore suits, looked important, and walked with confidence. That was the image I unknowingly planted in him. And that image became the reason our entire life turned upside down at the KSeoul Media Expo. The event hall was loud, crammed with reporters, actors, CEOs, screens flashing with advertisements, and people dressed far richer than I could ever dream to be. My job was simple: help backstage staff, carry folders, adjust microphones. Nothing glamorous. Baek-ha came with me because my babysitter canceled an hour before the event. He held my hand tightly as we squeezed through crowds. "Yama," he whispered, "is there going to be someone cool today?" I laughed softly. "Maybe. The CEO of Kangtech is coming." "Kangtech?" His eyes grew huge. "The robot company?" "Yes," I said, brushing his hair back. "His name is Kang Do-yun. He sounds like a superhero," he whispered. "Maybe," I said, smiling. "But stay close, okay?" He nodded very seriously, the kind of seriousness children have when they're lying without realizing it. Then the lights dimmed. A hush swept through the crowd. A voice announced, "Please welcome Kangtech's CEO, Mr. Kang Do-yun." When I turned, the breath left my lungs. He walked through the crowd like the world parted for him. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a charcoal suit that looked hand-stitched onto his body. His expression was unreadable, his eyes sharp enough to quiet a room without speaking. People whispered his name the way villagers whisper the name of a mountain god. Fearfully, respectfully. I'd never seen Baek-ha freeze like that. His eyes widened, his mouth fell open, and before I could react, before I could even tighten my grip around his small fingers, he slipped out of my hand like a fish and bolted forward. "Baek-ha!" I shouted, stumbling after him. But he was already halfway across the hall, weaving between adults, ignoring shocked gasps, arms stretched wide as if reaching for something he'd been missing for years. He ran straight toward Kang Do-yun, and then, loud enough to echo through every microphone, "Appa!" The world stopped. It wasn't the confused shout of a child misbehaving. It wasn't playful. It wasn't random. It was the trembling, choked voice of a child calling someone he has been longing for. My heart broke and panicked at the same time. Gasps erupted around the hall. Every reporter snapped their cameras at once, like lightning striking endlessly. Kang Do-yun stopped mid-step. His expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened with a strange flicker as he looked down. And there, clinging tightly to the CEO's leg, was my son. My precious, clueless Baek-ha wrapped his arms around the man's thigh as if he had found something he lost. And in the soft, fragile voice of a child who knows abandonment without understanding it, he whispered, "Appa, please don't leave us again." The hall exploded. What? His son? Secret family? Don't leave us again. Did the CEO abandon an Omega? Is this a scandal? Flashes blinded my eyes. Reporters leaned over barriers. Microphones swung forward like hungry mouths, and I, shaking, sweating, terrified, ran to my child. I'm so sorry, Baek-ha. Baby, let go, I said, pulling him into my arms. He clung to me, still crying, still reaching for the CEO. Yama, Appa came back. Why are you taking me away? The words stabbed me like knives. Baby? I whispered shakily. He's not. But how could I tell him the truth here? In front of hundreds of staring eyes? In front of a man whose cold gaze was piercing through my skull? Kang Do-yun didn't move for several seconds. He just stared at Baek-ha with an unreadable expression. Part confusion, part shock, part something I couldn't name. Then he finally spoke, his voice low and controlled. Bring them to my office. Not a request. Not a suggestion. Command. 2 security guards instantly appeared beside us. The reporters screamed questions, flashes burning into my eyes as the guards escorted us out. I held my trembling son tightly, whispering, It's okay. It's okay. Yama is here. Even though nothing was okay. Nothing at all. Inside Kang Do-yun's private office. Silent, wide, terrifying. He stood with his hands in his pockets, back straight, eyes fixed on us. I felt like a child waiting to be punished. He finally spoke. Why? He said slowly. Did your son call me Appa? My throat tightened. My palms were sweating. Baek-ha hid his face in my chest, small body trembling. I never told him your name, I whispered. He's never met you. He only knows one thing. And what is that? He asked quietly. That his Appa, I said, voice breaking, is a tall man in a suit, someone important, someone who looks like you. Silence. You lied to him, he said flatly. I protected him, I whispered back. Another long pause. Then his gaze shifted to my son, softening by a fraction, and something dangerous, something unpredictable flickered in his eyes. This, he said, is going to change everything. And in that moment I knew my life was no longer mine. Kang Do-yun's office was the kind of place that made you feel smaller just by breathing inside it. The walls were floor-to-ceiling glass, showing the whole Seoul skyline like a silent audience judging my every move. The air smelled expensive, polished wood, leather, and something cold that reminded me of rain hitting steel. I stood there holding Baek-ha tightly against my chest, my heart beating too fast, my hands trembling. I had never felt this cornered in my life. Not even when I learned I was pregnant and my mate disappeared. Not even when I had to beg for overtime shifts just to afford baby formula. This was different. Because now the entire country thought the most powerful alpha in Korea had a secret omega and a hidden son. He stood with his back to us at first, hands behind him, posture straight and unreadable. Then he turned. His dark eyes moved from my face to Baek-ha's small fingers clutching my collar. I felt exposed, like those eyes could peel open every fear I had tried to bury. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't show anger. He simply asked again, low and controlled, Why did your son call me Appa? Those words sank into my skin like needles. I swallowed hard and tried to speak, but my voice cracked. He doesn't know his real Appa, I whispered. I told him his father is someone important, someone who wears suits and works far away, someone he doesn't see often. Do-yun's jaw clenched, a tiny muscle twitching. So you made him believe his father is a powerful man? His tone was sharp but calm, the kind of calm that felt more dangerous than shouting. Quickly shook my head. No, sir. I didn't tell him anything specific. I just didn't want him to feel abandoned. I didn't want him to think his father didn't want him. My throat burned. Saying it out loud made the pain come rushing back. He filled the rest of the picture himself. When he saw you, he thought you were the father he imagined. Silence stretched, heavy, suffocating. Baek-ha sniffled softly, rubbing his eyes against my shirt as he peeked at the CEO. Yama, is Appa angry at me? I froze. Do-yun's eyes softened by the faintest fraction. He crouched down slightly, leveling himself with Baek-ha's height, and I felt my breath stop. Why did you think I was your Appa? He asked gently. My son did not hesitate. Children rarely do when they think they are telling the truth. Because Appa is tall, he said confidently, and handsome, and important, and he wears suits. Yama says Appa loves me a lot, but he's working far away. So, I thought you came back. My heart cracked wide open hearing that. I wanted to take him and run somewhere far away from cameras and headlines and men whose eyes were too sharp. But then Do-yun spoke again. And don't leave us again. Why did you say that? Baek-ha's small voice turned soft. Because Appa left to work far away, and Yama cried a lot. I don't want Yama to cry anymore. I flinched. Do-yun's eyes flicked up at me, something unreadable flickering through them. Maybe it was pity, maybe curiosity, maybe calculation. He stood back up slowly. All of Korea thinks he is my child now. I felt dizziness wash over me. Sir, I swear I didn't plan this. I didn't tell him to. I know. He cut in. A 5-year-old doesn't act. That was real. I held Baek-ha tighter. Please, I will explain everything. To the media if needed. Just tell them it was a misunderstanding. Please don't fire me. I'll resign quietly. I'll take the blame. I didn't care if I lost my job. I cared about my son's safety. My voice shook as I continued. Just don't let them hurt him. Please. For the first time since the incident, something in the CEO's face shifted. He stepped closer, slow and deliberate. Not threatening, but not gentle either. Firing you won't fix this, he said. The public already believes I have a hidden son. His eyes moved to Baek-ha's face again. And they adore him. Adore him. I almost laughed. We were drowning and he was talking about public affection. Do-yun walked toward his desk, placed both palms down, and lowered his head slightly as if thinking through a maze of consequences. If we deny everything now, he said slowly, the media will dig deeper. They will follow you, harass your son, stalk your home. They will destroy your privacy trying to prove you're lying. My knees weakened. But it's the truth, I whispered desperately. He's not your... The truth doesn't matter anymore, he interrupted calmly. The story has already been written. The public believes what they want to believe. I felt tears burn behind my eyes. My breath came out uneven. Sir, please, what do we do? He turned to me, his expression unreadable, controlled, cold, determined. We do the only thing that can protect your son. I stared at him, confused. What do you mean? He took a few steps forward until he was standing directly in front of me. So close I could feel the weight of his presence. The public thinks he is my son. A heartbeat. So I will make him my son. I froze. My lungs stopped working. Couldn't breathe. Yes, sir. I whispered. You and the boy will stay with me, he said, voice low and firm. Until this storm ends. The company will announce I am acknowledging him. And you? His eyes locked on mine. Will be under my protection. Under his protection. The words hit me like a punch and a comfort at the same time. But why would you do that? I stammered. You don't even know us. He didn't blink. Because the alternative is leaving your child to be torn apart by reporters who think he is my abandoned offspring. My body trembled. He wasn't wrong. And, he added quietly, because if I am going to be accused of having a family, I'd rather control the narrative than let them decide it for me. Control the narrative, I whispered. This is not just a rumor anymore, he said. It is a national story, and I intend to use it. My breath caught in my throat. You see us. His eyes softened barely, like a fragile crack in steel. Not use. Protect. He looked at Baek-ha again, and something in his gaze shifted. Something subtle. Something human. He called me Appa with everything in his heart. I'm not cruel enough to pretend I didn't hear that. My eyes filled with tears. Then he said the words that sealed our fate. You and your son will move into my residence tonight. I gasped. Tonight? But there's no time, he said. The media is waiting outside this building. If you walk out alone, your life will never be the same. I held Baek-ha tighter. He was already dozing off, exhausted from crying. His small cheek pressed against my shoulder, his little hand clutching my shirt. Trust me, Do-yun said quietly. I looked up at him, this cold CEO, this stranger, and for a moment I saw something else beneath the surface. Responsibility, determination, and maybe a fragment of something tender. But I didn't have the luxury to doubt him, because he was right. The world outside was a storm, and the only shelter I had left was him. The elevator ride to Kang Do-yun's private residence felt like I was rising into another world altogether. A world where I didn't belong. My son slept with his face buried in my neck, exhausted from crying and confusion, and I kept my eyes fixed on the elevator doors, refusing to look at my own reflection. I didn't want to see the panic written all over me. Do-yun stood behind us, silent, his presence heavy but strangely grounding. No one spoke. The only sound was the quiet humming of the elevator and the soft breathing of my child. When the doors opened, I felt the air change instantly. I stepped into a sprawling penthouse so big it made my entire previous apartment feel like a shoebox. Marble floors, soft yellow lights, windows that held the entire city in their arms. It wasn't a home. It was a world. And we didn't belong here. Do-yun didn't ask permission. He simply walked inside, loosened his tie, and said, "Follow me." His voice held no room for argument, but it wasn't cruel, just firm. He led us down a hallway lined with modern paintings until we reached a spacious bedroom. Ivory walls, a king-sized bed, soft rugs that swallowed footsteps. "You and your son will sleep here tonight." I blinked. "We will sleep here? In your bedroom?" "No," he said simply. "This is one of the guest suites, the closest to my own room, in case something happens." "Something like what?" I whispered. He paused, eyes sliding briefly to Baek-ha's sleeping form. "Nightmares, reporters, anything." Something twisted inside my chest at the way he said that, like he already understood that my son was fragile, that I was fragile, that he needed to keep us close, not for his sake, but for ours. "Tomorrow," he continued, "I will prepare a permanent room for him, with toys, books, whatever he needs." My lips parted. I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say this is too much, but the words tangled on my tongue. He looked at me then, really looked at me. "You're trembling," he said softly. I didn't even realize I was until he said it. I'm just overwhelmed," I whispered. This all happened so fast. Do-yun stepped closer, but not enough to invade my space. "I know." He paused. "I will not hurt you." Those words shouldn't have made my throat tighten, but they did. I bowed my head slightly. "Thank you, sir." His jaw tightened. "Don't call me sir." I blinked up at him. "Then, what do I call you?" "Do-yun," he said after a second. "At least when we are alone." My heart skipped. Not romantically, but with the shock of intimacy that didn't match our strange situation. I nodded weakly. "Okay." He hesitated a moment longer, then stepped back. "Rest for tonight, both of you. Tomorrow we talk about the plan." I wanted to ask what plan, what our lives would look like, what would happen to us after the scandal died down. But exhaustion pressed into my bones like sandbags. I laid Baek-ha gently on the edge of the huge bed. He curled into the blankets automatically, his small fingers clutching the fabric. "You really scared Yama?" I whispered, brushing his hair back. "But you didn't mean to, did you?" He mumbled in his sleep, "Appa." My heart constricted painfully. I turned to find Do-yun still standing at the doorway, watching us quietly. "He really believes it," he said softly. "He sees me as his father." I swallowed. "He just wants someone to stay. That's all." His eyes flicked to me. "And you? Do you want someone to stay?" The question slapped the air out of me. My lips parted, but no answer came. Because what could I say? That I had been alone since my mate abandoned me? That I stopped expecting anyone to stay? That I didn't know how to trust an alpha anymore? He didn't push. Instead, he nodded once and turned to leave. "Good night, Seung-ah." The sound of my name in his voice did something I didn't want to acknowledge. The door closed softly behind him, leaving me alone in a room that smelled nothing like home. I woke up to silence, Strange, unfamiliar silence. In my tiny apartment, mornings were always filled with honking cars, noisy neighbors, and the sound of the old fridge rumbling like a dying bear. Here, the air felt still, too still. I blinked up at the high ceiling, momentarily forgetting where I was. Then I felt a warm weight crawl onto me. Yama, Baek-ha mumbled, climbing on top of my stomach. This bed is huge. We can roll forever. We're not rolling anywhere, I said groggily, pulling him close. But then he smiled so brightly I couldn't help smiling back. Yama, did Appa make breakfast? Rich people have special breakfast, right? I choked. No, baby, don't. But before I could finish, a knock came at the door. Polite, professional. Yun Seung-ah, a deep voice called. Are you both awake? My heart jumped into my throat. I sat up fast, smoothing my hair. Why, yes. Give us a moment. I quickly fixed my shirt, wiped Baek-ha's face, and opened the door a crack. Do-yun stood there, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly messy, as if he had been up since dawn. His eyes flicked to my son and softened without meaning to. Breakfast is ready, he said. Baek-ha gasped dramatically. See? I told you rich people have breakfast. I wanted to sink into the floor. Do-yun's lips twitched. Almost a smile. He's not entirely wrong. We followed him to the dining area. A long table filled with food I'd only ever seen in photos. Fresh fruit, warm soup, pastries, eggs, fancy dishes I couldn't even name. My jaw dropped. Baek-ha went straight for a plate of strawberries, stuffing his cheeks like a hamster. I pulled him close quickly. Manners, I whispered. We're guests. It's fine, Do-yun said calmly, pouring tea into a cup. Let him eat. But he's a child. Let him be. Something inside me loosened at those words. I didn't know this man. He was a stranger, a powerful alpha, cold and unreadable. But he was trying. After a few minutes of silent eating, he looked up at me. We need to discuss what happens next. I froze. He continued. The media is already outside the building. They are calling him my son. And you? He looked at me, eyes darkening. You are trending online as the secret Omega. My stomach dropped. No, I whispered. No. This can't. It already has, he said. And it won't stop. I felt panic rise again. But then he added quietly, that's why you stay here. With me. I met his gaze. What exactly are you planning? He leaned back, fingers steepled under his chin. A public statement, he said slowly, that you are under my protection, and that I will be addressing the rumors soon. My breath hitched. And what about us? What about my child? His eyes softened in a way that made my heart stutter. For now, he said quietly, you stay close, both of you, until the world calms down. A pause. I won't let anything happen to him. My voice trembled. And to me, his eyes held mine for a long, silent moment. I won't let anything happen to you either. Something warm bloomed in my chest. Dangerously warm. But then he stood, straightening his sleeves. Prepare yourself, Seung-ah. From today on. His gaze moved between me and my son. Your lives are tied to mine. When the public statement finally dropped, the world felt like it tilted on its axis. I didn't even hear it first from the news. I heard it from the muffled vibrations of Do-yun's phone, constantly buzzing on the dining table while we tried to eat breakfast without shaking. The headline sat like a stone in my stomach. CEO Kang Do-yun confirms child is under his care. Family living arrangement revealed. My hands trembled as I held my chopsticks. I couldn't swallow a single bite. But Do-yun ate steadily, unmoved. Every motion precise and calm like this was just another business negotiation. It made me feel small. It made everything feel too real. We're everywhere, I whispered, staring down at my untouched soup. The world thinks we're some kind of hidden family. That's the point, he replied, wiping his mouth with a napkin. If the world sees you as mine, they cannot tear you apart so easily. It still feels wrong, I murmured. He looked at me. Just looked. And for a second his eyes softened into something almost human. It feels necessary, he corrected. Then, glancing at Baek-ha happily chewing his egg, he added lower, for him. My son looked up at us with wide, innocent eyes. Yama, why are you sad? We're eating together. It's like a drama family. I forced a smile. Yes, baby, like a drama. But dramas end. Life doesn't. The day only escalated from there. Reporters camped outside the building like a permanent shadow of chaos. Security came and went, talking into earpieces. Assistants delivered documents for Do-yun to sign, legal clarifications, public explanations, timelines, schedules. And every few minutes, another news notification lit up my phone like a warning flare. Nation reacts to CEO's hidden child. Who is the Omega living with Kang Do-yun? Little boy Baek-ha steals the hearts of Koreans. I felt sick. What am I supposed to do? I asked weakly, standing near the living room window while hundreds of people swarmed below us. You do nothing, Do-yun said firmly. I handle the public. I turned to him. But the comments online. I've read them, he said. Ignore them. That's easy for you to say, I whispered. You're used to this world. His jaw tightened. I'm used to fighting it, he corrected. And now I'll fight it for you. The sincerity in his voice made me look away quickly. Later, when Baek-ha napped curled up like a tiny kitten between plush pillows, I found myself standing in Do-yun's private office. The curtains were half open, the city glowing beneath us like constellations. He was there, sleeves rolled up, reviewing documents with a deep frown. I hesitated at the doorway. Can we talk? He lifted his eyes instantly. Of course. I stepped inside slowly. I figured, if we're going to live like this, I should at least understand what's happening. A flicker of something crossed his face. Approval, maybe. Ask. So I did every question I'd been terrified to ask. Why didn't you deny it? Because denial makes people dig deeper. Why did you say you would protect us? Because you need protection. And why? My voice wavered. Why me? Why my son? He leaned back in his chair. Because your son believes I am his father. His voice grew softer, almost thoughtful. And when he said, don't leave us again, I saw something I didn't expect. What? I whispered. A child who already knew loss. My eyes stung. He continued, I don't know your past. You don't owe me that story. But I know this. Children don't cry like that for no reason. A tear rolled down my cheek before I could wipe it. And something strange happened then. Do-yun stood up, walked toward me, and stopped barely a step away. You're not alone anymore, Seung-ah, he said quietly. Not while I'm here. It was the first time he said my name like it meant something. The next major blow came that afternoon, when his PR team arrived. 3 well-dressed people with stiff smiles and tablets full of crisis plans. They sat me on the couch like I was a witness to my own life being dissected. Mr. Kang, public reaction is surprisingly positive, one said. The child has captured national attention. People are calling him the little tiger. I almost choked. T-tiger. Yes, she smiled politely. Even though he's small, he grabbed your leg with so much emotion. Netizens find it adorable. Do-yun didn't react. Continue. As for the Omega, she said, glancing at me, there are questions about his background. Many assume he and Mr. Kang had a private relationship years ago. I swallowed hard. But that's false. She gave me a soft, professional smile. Truth is flexible. Flexible. Not important. Not required. My stomach twisted. Then she added, we must frame a narrative before the public creates one. What narrative? I asked. She looked at Do-yun for permission. He nodded. She continued, for now, the story will be, you and Mr. Kang were close in the past. The relationship remained private. The child was kept out of the public eye for his safety. And now, Mr. Kang has chosen to acknowledge him. I felt the room tilt. So, we're saying he's really your? Do-yun cut in sharply. We're saying nothing more than necessary. The The PR woman added, "This is the only way to avoid public backlash." My hands clenched painfully. "I don't want to lie to the world." "For your son," she replied softly. "You might have to." Silence filled the room. And then, unexpectedly, a small sleepy voice broke it. "Appa?" We all turned. Baek-ha stood there, half awake, hair messy, rubbing his eyes. He waddled straight to Do-yun and lifted his arms. Up. Every PR team member froze. So did I. So did Do-yun. But then, slowly, hesitantly, he lifted Baek-ha into his arms. The child leaned into his chest with complete trust, like he had always belonged there. "Appa," he mumbled, curling in. Do-yun swallowed, his hand resting awkwardly yet protectively on the boy's back. The PR woman whispered, "Mr. Kang, sir. The cameras need to see this." "No," he said sharply. Everyone stiffened. He looked at them, jaw tight. "No cameras around my son. Ever." And oddly, I felt like I could breathe for the first time that day. That night, after everyone left, I stood on the balcony alone, watching the city lights shimmer. The air was cold. The world felt too big. "You should sleep," came a quiet voice behind me. I turned to see him there, hands in his pockets, eyes softer in the night glow. "I can't," I whispered. He stepped closer. "Thinking. Worried," I corrected. "For yourself. For my son," I said honestly. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he spoke softly, but firmly, like a vow. "I told you I would protect him. I don't break promises." I inhaled shakily. "What about me?" His gaze didn't waver. "You too." My heart trembled in a way I wasn't ready for. "And this temporary arrangement?" I whispered. "How long? Until it ends?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he took one step closer, so close I could feel his warmth. "That depends," he murmured, voice low. "Some things don't stay temporary." My breath caught. He turned away before I could respond. "Good night, Seung-ah." And as he walked away, I wasn't sure if I feared him or the way he made me feel safe. I didn't realize how quickly a lie could begin to feel like a life until I woke up one morning and found the penthouse no longer felt foreign to me. Maybe it was the quietness. Maybe it was the way the place smelled faintly like warm coffee every morning. Or maybe it was because my son had begun to laugh again. Full, unrestrained laughter that echoed through the halls like little bells. The third morning at Kang Do-yun's residence began with Baek-ha climbing on my stomach and whispering, "Yama, wake up. Appa is making breakfast." I blinked. Appa? He's not." But before I could correct him, the smell hit me. Something warm. Something burning? Oh no. I rushed to the kitchen and found a sight that almost made me laugh out loud. The almighty CEO Kang Do-yun. Cold-blooded, emotionless, terrifying to the entire business world, stood in an apron, staring down at a frying pan like it had personally offended him. A black, half-burned omelette lay sadly inside it. He noticed me at the doorway. "It's not cooperating." I pressed my lips together, trying not to smile. "Food usually doesn't cooperate when you threaten it." "I wasn't threatening it," he muttered, flipping the omelette again only to break it in half. "You're glaring at it," I said softly. "I glare at everything." I laughed under my breath, stepping closer. Without thinking, I leaned over him to adjust the heat setting on the stove. He froze when my hand brushed his arm. I froze too. The air between us shifted, thick and warm. I moved back quickly, cheeks heating. "Try lower heat," I said quietly. "It burns slower that way." His eyes lingered on me longer than necessary. Then he nodded, turning back to the pan. "I'll try again tomorrow." "You really don't have to cook?" I said, picking up the broken omelette with chopsticks. "I do," he replied simply. "Why?" His jaw tightened as he wiped his hands on a towel. "Because I should know how to take care of what's mine." My heart skipped. "We're not yours." He met my eyes. "For the world, you are." Breakfast was a quiet, strange mix of awkwardness and comfort. Baek-ha ate the broken omelette proudly, chewing like it was the most delicious thing on earth. Appa made it, he said with his mouth full. So it's yummy. Do-yun looked away embarrassed, and something in my chest softened unexpectedly. But moments like that never lasted long. The world outside didn't let us breathe for even a second. After breakfast, his assistant arrived with files and updates. News alerts lit up the penthouse screens again. Public demands family interview. Kongtech stocks surge after child reveal. Who exactly is the Omega behind the CEO? I sat on the couch, holding a cup of lukewarm tea I no longer tasted. My mind buzzed with fear. What if my past came out? What if they found out I was abandoned while pregnant? What if they twisted my story into something filthy? Do-yun must have sensed my panic. He approached me, lowered himself to my eye level, and gently took the cup from my trembling hands. Stop reading, he said quietly. I can't, I whispered. It's my life. He shook his head. No, it's noise. The truth is here. With me. With your son. Not in their opinions. I looked up at him. Really looked. This man, the one the world feared, was talking to me like I mattered. Like my fear mattered. He stood and offered his hand. Come with me. I hesitated. Where? To see something. I took his hand. Warm. Steady. He led me to the elevator and down to a private floor I hadn't seen before. Security men bowed as the doors opened. A heavy door slid aside, and inside was playroom. A massive, sunlit, pastel-colored playroom filled with toys, books, beanbags, puzzles, tiny rugs shaped like clouds, and a miniature slide. My breath hitched. What is all this? I whispered. For him, he said simply. I stared in disbelief. But this must have taken days to set up. It took 12 hours. His tone was matter-of-fact. I signed the order yesterday. I turned to him slowly. Why would you do this? He looked away, shoulders tense. Because he needs a safe space. Something that is his. And me? I asked before I could stop myself. He hesitated longer this time. Finally, in a voice softer than I'd ever heard from him, he said, and you need a home where you aren't afraid. My chest tightened painfully. You barely know me. I'm learning, he said quietly. Every second. I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight, my eyes stinging. And then, before I could speak, the elevator dinged and Baek-ha burst out, running in. His joy filled the room like sunlight. Yama! Appa! There's a slide. There's a whale pillow. Can I live here forever? Do-yun's entire expression softened. If you want, he said gently, you can. My heart cracked open at the edges. Later that evening, after hours of playing, feeding, and cleaning up tiny disasters, I finally put Baek-ha to sleep in the guest room. His breathing steadied, eyelashes soft against his cheeks. I closed the door quietly and walked into the hallway, only to find Do-yun standing there, leaning against the wall like he'd been waiting. You're tired, he said. I nodded weakly. It's been a day. I have something for you, he said. My heart skipped, just a little. What is it? He handed me a folder. Inside were documents stamped with the Kongtech seal. What's this? I asked, confused. A provisional protection contract, he said. It legally declares you and Baek-ha as dependents under my care. I looked up sharply. Why would you give me this? So no one, including reporters or your past, can touch you. My blood went cold. My past. He didn't blink. I know someone hurt you. His voice dropped to something almost dangerous. And if they ever try to come back, I'll make sure they regret it. I stepped back slightly. Why are you being like this? There was a long pause. Then he said it. Because I told you, I protect what's mine. But we're not. Maybe not by blood, he said softly, stepping closer. But right now, in this moment, you're under my roof. My name. My responsibility. My breath caught. You don't have to accept the contract yet, he said. But think about it. I stared at the papers in my hands. Legal protection. Safety. Stability. Things I dreamed of having. Things I never believed I would. And yet, A fear curled inside me. Why me? I whispered again. Why us? His expression shifted into something raw, honest, vulnerable. When your son hugged me, he said quietly, I felt something I haven't felt in years. I swallowed. What did you feel? He took a slow breath. Like I didn't want to walk away. The silence between us hummed with something electric. Something dangerous. And then, almost too gently, he brushed a stray hair from my face. I don't know what this will become, he murmured. But it's no longer pretend. My heart thundered. He slowly stepped back, giving me space. Good night, Seung-ah. I stood there long after he left, trembling, staring at the contract in my shaking hands. Was I afraid of him? Or afraid of the way he made me feel something I had sworn never to feel again? The next few days in the penthouse felt like living inside a bubble. Quiet, strangely warm, and protected from the chaos that roared outside. Reporters still swarmed the entrance. News clips still showed my son's tiny arms wrapped around Do-yun's leg. And every time the world yelled louder, he tightened the walls around us. The contract sat on my bedside table, untouched but not ignored. Every night I stared at it. Every night my heart beat a little faster. Because the truth was, somewhere between pretending and protecting, something real had begun to form. Something I didn't know how to name. And then everything changed in one night. It started after dinner. Baek-ha had eaten too much and fallen asleep on the couch, curled like a kitten with his cheek resting on my thigh. I stroked his hair gently, humming a lullaby. That's when I felt eyes on me. I looked up to find Do-yun standing near the doorway, arms crossed loosely, just watching us. You're good with him, he said quietly. He's my son, I whispered. He's more than that, he said. He's happy. Because of you. I blinked, surprised by the softness in his voice. He walked closer, stopping just a step away from me. The living room light cast warm shadows on his face, making him look less like the cold CEO the world feared, and more like someone real, someone human. Have you thought about the contract? He asked finally. I stiffened. Ah, yes. And I hesitated, eyes dropping. I don't want to depend on anyone. I've lived alone for years. I'm afraid of relying on someone again. You're afraid I'll leave, he said simply. I froze. Those words hit something deep and raw inside me. He knelt down in front of me, his voice low but firm. I'm not him. That one sentence made my eyes sting with tears. I know your past isn't my business, he continued. But I can see the fear in your eyes every time someone gets close. He glanced at my sleeping son. You've been protecting him alone. But who has been protecting you? My throat tightened. No one, I whispered. He nodded slowly. Then let me. The tears fell before I could stop them. He reached out, hesitant, almost shy, and touched the back of my hand. It wasn't a grab. It wasn't forceful. It was gentle, warm. You deserve someone who stays, he said. My voice shook. And you'll stay? A long silence. Then, I want to. My heart flipped, scared, hopeful, confused. But before I could respond, a loud buzzing echoed through the penthouse. Security alarms flashed on the screens. What's happening? I gasped. Do-yun stood instantly, all warmth replaced by sharp alertness. Security breach. Stay here. He rushed out before I could stop him. My heart pounded. I carefully picked up my son and followed the muffled voices. When I reached the entrance, the sight made my blood turn cold. A man stood in the hallway, surrounded by security. My ex-mate, the alpha who abandoned me. His hair messy, eyes wild, clothes wrinkled like he hadn't slept in days. The moment his gaze landed on me, his expression twisted. Seung-ah, he choked. You're here? With him? His eyes snapped to the sleeping child in my arms. Is that my son? I froze. He tried to take a step forward, but security held him back. Don't touch him, I yelled without thinking, clutching Baek-ha closer. The alpha's eyes widened. So he is mine. You hid him from me. Enough. Do-yun's voice cut through the air like a blade. He stepped forward, coat moving like wings behind him, his presence commanding the entire hallway. "This child is not yours," he said, tone icy cold. "You lost any right to even speak about him the day you abandoned the Omega carrying him." My ex glared. "You don't know anything." "I know everything," Do-yun snapped. "I had your background researched." My breath caught. "I know you ran from responsibility. I know you left him alone during Omega Heat to suffer through pregnancy. I know you tried to come back only when reporters showed interest." His eyes were knives. "You're not here for them. You're here for attention." My ex's face twisted. "I'm his real father." "You're nothing," Do-yun said calmly. "Not to him. Not to the Omega who raised him alone. And not in my house." He stepped closer, voice low and lethal. "If you ever come near them again, I'll destroy you professionally and personally. Do you understand?" My ex's face paled. Security dragged him away as he screamed. But he was gone within seconds. Silence settled like dust. My body shook uncontrollably. Do-yun came to me slowly, as if approaching a frightened animal. Then his hand brushed my cheek, wiping tears I didn't realize were falling. "You're safe," he whispered. "He'll never touch you, or your son. Not while I'm here." My legs gave out. I fell forward, and he caught me, strong arms wrapped around me, pulling me against his chest. His warmth enveloped me. I felt my tears soak into his shirt. He held me through every shiver, every sob. "You're safe," he repeated. "I'm not going to leave." I buried my face against him, breath trembling. Why do you care so much?" He pulled back just enough to look at me. His hand lifted, brushing a strand of hair from my eyes. His gaze softened, melting, warm, full of a tenderness I never expected from him. "Because," he whispered, "somewhere in this chaos, you became important to me." My heart stopped. He leaned closer, forehead touching mine. "And your son," he murmured. "He's become my family." A single tear slipped down my cheek. "Do-yun?" I breathed. He cupped my jaw, thumb stroking gently. "This isn't pretend anymore," he said softly. "Not for me." My breath trembled. "Not for me either." The distance between us closed like it was meant to. His lips brushed mine, soft, hesitant, asking permission. I leaned in. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened, warm and slow, like two people finally finding something they didn't know they had been craving. When we finally pulled away, breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. "Let me stay," he whispered. "Let me take care of you both. Let me be your family." I looked up at him. This man who stepped into our lives by accident, who protected us like instinct, who kissed me like a promise. I nodded slowly. "Okay," I whispered. "Stay." He exhaled shakily, relief washing over his face. "Then sign the contract," he murmured, smiling softly. "Not because you need protection, but because you're choosing me." My heart swelled. "I choose you," I whispered. He kissed me again, gently, deeply. And that night, I signed the contract with steady hands, because it was no longer a contract of protection. It was the first page of our future. A family born from an accident, strengthened by choice, sealed by love. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of tomorrow.